So when you're working in Stable Diffusion and other AI programs, image generation programs, and you need a bit of realism or a certain light roll-off quality and naturalness, use Bouguereau in your prompts. So this is a secret artist of which I hinted at in my previous video. The link is in the description. William Adolphe Bouguereau. In his time in 1825 to 1905, he was considered to be one of the greatest painters in the world. How many of you knew that? I didn't. His study of classical literature also influenced his interpretations of those subjects and mythological themes. He was no stranger to death or grief. 4 of his 5 sons had died before him. This painting, First Morning, which depicts Abel lying across Adam's lap, was painted directly after the death of his second son. I mention this because these paintings have stories behind them. Adam clutches his heart, fearing it will break, and Eve weeps uncontrollably. In 1877, his wife and infant son died. Bouguereau was married for the second time in 1896 to fellow artist Elizabeth Jane Gardner, one of his pupils. She was a penniless artist from America who sought an education in Paris, but was turned down because she was a woman. Bouguereau took her in and later used his considerable influence to pressure the admittance of women for the first time in learning institutions for the arts in Paris. Her works were also quite engaging. When asked about how her work reflected his, she said, "I know I am censured for not more boldly asserting my individuality, but I would rather be known as the best imitator of Bouguereau than be a nobody." Bouguereau was later reviled by the establishment, whose movement to Impressionism and other modern art shifted away from the style of the mythological and religious themes of the Renaissance. The avant-garde movement swept along journalists, the wealthy, and academia to the point that his works and those of other valuable artists of his era were deliberately forgotten or outright hidden from students filling the ranks to become future artists. How anyone can look at these works of art and not be moved or held in place in some way I don't understand. It's like listening to Bach and not understanding what a connection to the religious experience might be. Near the end of his life, Bouguereau described his love of his art. "Each day I go to my studio full of joy. In the evening, when obliged to stop because of darkness, I can scarcely wait for the next morning to come. If I cannot give myself to my dear painting, I am miserable." He ended up creating over 800 paintings. I think that's such beautiful phrasing. If I cannot give myself to my dear painting, I am miserable. As a writer of novels and an artist of different expressions in my life, I fully understand that statement. I am fortunate to have so many artist friends who I think would also find favor with that statement of giving themselves over to their art. For when it is done to this capacity where we lose ourselves in the process and our expression, we create best. I embrace this new age of art thrust upon us by Stable Diffusion and others, having a tool that allows us to envision something in our heads and to produce it through mere description of that image, and then produce something close to what we initially generate is powerful. It's the opportunity of iterations. It doesn't matter that this tool produces such wonderful, detailed, and surprising variation. It can never capture the internal dynamics of the individual and what drives them to produce their next expression. As any artist knows, it's always a process of refinement, of iteration that tracks toward our original, glorious impulse of expression. It is the time, the giving of ourselves over to our art, and the tools we use that helps us bring it into the world as a unique creation. The computer can't do that. It's a tool. Master your tools, and you will master your expression to the world. It is the path to more closely reproduce that spark inside you to inspire others. My thoughts on art. I believe art's impulse in the world is through the eyes of those who are fortunate enough to see the expression and through which emerges their own visual and emotional upheaval that then inspires the need to share as well as reflect internally. The initial inspiration for objective art doesn't get fulfilled until it is expressed in a way others can see. Up until it is manifest, it is more the artistic process of inspiration to action. Expressing it for others to interpret in their own way, as each of us must, it then becomes art. Thank you for watching. Please give a thumbs up if you found this enjoyable or educational, and subscribe if you'd like more of this content.